Welcome to Becoming Limitless. This is the podcast for entrepreneurs who want to optimize their brain and their body with biohacking. I'm going to teach you how to eliminate brain fog and upgrade your health so you can have more productivity, energy, and growth in your business. I'm your host, Tanessa Shears. Let's jump in. Welcome back to the Becoming Limitless podcast. I've got an episode for you today. Did you know for the longest time, I didn't realize that the way I thought about busy and time was so different from anyone else. And it wasn't really until I started working with clients more so in the coaching capacity, probably back starting in maybe 2017, that I recognized that I had something that was so valuable to teach. And that's what I'm teaching you today. So yes, we're talking about how to hack busy. But more importantly, this comes down to time. I had two conversations almost back to back actually with clients this week, and we were talking about feeling overwhelmed, feeling busy, having them, just feel like they were nonstop go, go, go. There was no downtime, and how it was just ruining the experience of their life, right? Well, if you think about busy, for most people, busy comes hand in hand with being overwhelmed or overworked or not feeling present. And what we do is we look at our calendar and we tell ourselves there's so much stuff on there and that we don't get to do time for the things we want, that it just feels like we're just like constantly going and we just have this feeling we don't like it. And I mean, if you think about the idea of busy, we don't love it, right? I mean, it's something we feel like we are, but nobody's like, I'm so busy, it's great, right? And this is important to us as entrepreneurs. And part of the reason I wanted to do this is because becoming limitless is also about hacking your brain, right? It's not just about your body and the fitness and the nutrition and stuff like that, because once you get all that under control, it really comes down to your brain as the next step and really needing to have a system of changing how you see the world and how you think about the world. So learning how to hack busy is something that is going to make you feel so much more calm and present and at peace in your business. And this is a great feeling. Yes, we want to feel productive, and I'm going to show you why you can still feel productive without busy, because that's often the thing I get is like, well, I don't want to just not get stuff done. Well, busy has nothing to do with getting stuff done. And I'm going to show you exactly why I am the perfect person to teach this to, because I want you to see how much my brain has changed in the last 6 years. So in 2015, I was at the peak of my anxiety. So I didn't know, but for the last years before that, I had been struggling with generalized anxiety disorder, but I didn't quite know what that was because, I was in university and you're going through the tumultuous relationships of your early 20s and body issues and all of these things. And I just thought that that's what that was, that this was just how people feel. And I didn't realize that it was generalized anxiety disorder. And I felt panic all the time that I had so much to do. And I mean, at that point in time, if you were to look back at my life in 2015, I was single at the time. I was 2 years out of my undergraduate degree that I did at Simon Fraser University. And I was also in my second year of business. So in 2014, I took the leap and opened a personal training business that, blew up. And in that second year of business, by the time I had reached September of 2015, I was coming up fast on a 6-figure year because, believe it or not, I was actually seeing 33 client hours per week. It was a lot. And you know what it's like to run a business. It's never just the hours you're seeing the clients. It's the rescheduling and the communication and the program design and the marketing and the Facebooks. And I was doing live video and YouTube and all of those things. Like, it was full. And at the time, I became completely preoccupied with how busy I was. I would I remember carving out time to nap before I'd go in, because I used to go and do like 12 to 8, and I would run 8 clients back to back some days, or like 11:30 to 8. And I would get so preoccupied with like, I don't want to feel tired. I want to be present, but I have so much to do. And I just would like freeze in those hours before I started. And I would need to have to carve out time to nap because I hated feeling tired and I just wanted that downtime before I spent so much energy. And I wouldn't schedule anything else in that time. And then it would affect my personal life because then I wouldn't see people because I needed more. And oh my gosh, it was just such a mess in my head. And then of course things begin to drop off because I was like, I'm too busy. I've got so many clients and I need to rest and I've got all this other stuff to do and I got to see family and things started dropping off. And those things looked like my workouts. Even though I was a personal trainer at the time, I was like, I just can't get my workouts done. So even if you're in a different industry, how easy is it for your workouts to be like, I just need to get this done today. I'll get back onto it in a couple days. And then a couple days becomes next week becomes never, right? Or what about like making healthy food? That's something I definitely fell in the cracks for me was, making time to have actual variety in my meals instead of what was just easy to make, right? And the other thing that actually went when I felt super busy was getting enough sleep because I was like, I have to get all of this done so that I can, have enough hours to sleep. And then that whole thing, where your brain is going and you can't fall asleep and all you can do is think about how many hours of sleep you're missing out of. Like, yes, I know what it feels like to feel busy. And it got to the point, like I remember sitting on my couch and crying, and I was with my mom, and we ended up phoning the Burnaby General Hospital, which is a local hospital in the area, and talking to one of their intake counselors about what was going on because I was like, I need help with this. Like, it's affecting my life, feeling this busy and this overwhelmed, and I didn't realize that all the things that had piled onto the anxiety. And I remember them saying, well, you have to be in a group program. And I was like so anxious about being around people at the time. And I was just like, oh my gosh, a group? Did you not hear what I'm struggling with? Like, I just want effective, can I do this one-on-one? No. So I ended up actually joining their 4-week mindfulness program. And after I graduated for that, I actually qualified for 12 weeks of cognitive behavioral therapy. And this therapy was the very first time my eyes had been opened to what was going on inside my brain. And I remember while I was in one of the sessions, the nurse said something to me. She said, she specifically what she did was she noticed that all of my anxiety I was having was around time. And she was right. I was anxious if plans changed and I didn't have enough time to do something, or I had time where I was just sitting around waiting for something. I got anxious if people were late, or if I was late, or if my schedule was too full, or if I had too much to do, or if I didn't have enough downtime. And I noticed this, but it was that fall, at the same time I was learning that I found a brilliant podcast that taught me something that changed my life forever. I learned that your thoughts create your feelings. I'm not talking about those emotions that you get if you get like scared or, those ones that come up. I'm talking about the ongoing state or mood that we create for our life. The feelings that we feel on a regular basis are created by our thoughts. And I was like, And at first I didn't buy it. I was like, you know what? I can't control my thoughts. Those just happen to me. But the more I started exploring this idea, I was like, I noticed I was thinking the same things over and over again every time I felt busy. And I was like, well, what thoughts are creating busy for me? And I was like, I notice I keep thinking about time and how little of it there is, and how much I have to get done, and that it's a never-ending list, and all of these things. And that's when I learned that the idea of time was neutral and completely relative to the individual. Now, I want you to think about this. I know this is a cliche thing, but it really makes it clear. How long is a microwave minute? When you're standing there waiting for your coffee to heat up, or how long is a treadmill minute? Like, those minutes feel long. Now, when I was working this morning and typing up the notes for this show, I was like, oh my gosh, time is flying by so fast. I literally looked up and it was like half an hour later. So it flew by. Time is neutral. And I've worked very hard over the last 6 years after learning this to change how I see time. And because of that, I rarely feel busy. And I still have a whole bunch of stuff on my plate. Now, just looking at my last week alone. So I opened up my Google Calendar and I have, mostly everything I do scheduled in. And here's what I saw. I have 15 client hours on my schedule. I did a podcast interview. I led a 75-minute workshop on energy. I attended a call with my business coach. I recorded a podcast. I wrote sales emails. I did all of my marketing. I kept up with the back end of the business. I studied the stock market and reinvested a bunch of profit I had made. I worked out. I made time to eat healthy food. I slept 8 hours a night. I spent Sunday with my husband's family. I actually painted the half of the downstairs of my house. We did errands, we did chores, and not to mention, I am a stay-at-home mom. So all of that with an 18-month-old. I have a lot of stuff on my schedule and most of my time is accounted for. And when I say most of it, I literally mean most of it. And I don't ever feel busy. Now, why? The reason is because I have learned that busy is a story. Now, this is something that is going to change the way you look at busy. But the first thing we have to do is look at what it means to have a story, because that's actually what is creating busy. So when you have a story about something, it means that you have sentences in your head that you use to narrate what is going on in your life. Now, the thing is, we all have different stories, even if it's about the exact same thing. The thing is, your stories that you tell yourself about what is going on in your life are always colored through your experiences, your perception, or what we'll call your lens. Now, here's a good way to think about it. We all know people who think that they are busy, but when we look at their lives, it feels like they have a lot less going on in their life. So, for example, I've worked with clients before that have talked about family members that, they'll tell me they don't work, they don't have kids, they don't have anything to do all the day, but they always tell me they're so busy. Now, I'm busy. You should see what I have going on in my life. Here's the thing. It doesn't matter what is on your schedule, because if your story is that your life is busy and you don't have enough time, it literally does not matter how much is on your schedule or how much is on your to-do list. You will feel busy. And as soon as I realized this, I was like, oh my gosh, I am creating busy. And for me, busy always showed up as I feel overwhelmed and I feel like I'm tired all the time and that I can't get everything done and there's so much to do and not enough time to do it and I'm so rushed. So now that we know what it means to have a story, I'm going to tell you the top 4 truths I have learned and decided to believe about time once I recognized that the story that I was thinking about my time, my schedule, and what it meant to be busy, these are what I decided to believe instead because it felt so much better. Number 1, busy has more to do with how often you are thinking about what you have to do than what you actually have to do. So here's what I often find when I work with clients. So they will be with a client and at the same time thinking about all the things they got to do. They got to send out an email. They got to invoice this client. They have to actually go do a meeting with this client. They have to respond to this customer. And they're doing that while they are with their current client. Or they are, doing 2 things at once. Like they'll be responding to emails, but they'll also be trying to post on Instagram, or they'll also be trying to write some sales copy. They'll also be trying to write a product listing, and they're all over the place, meaning that their brain is constantly thinking, all this stuff I have to do, check, don't forget. And usually here's what I find. The clients that have the busiest brains are usually the ones that don't schedule or write down what they have to do. Meaning they have an idea because they have monthly tasks that they have to send invoices or whatever like that, but they don't actually have a place where they can offload that from their brain onto a piece of paper or a calendar or something like that. So their brain ruminates on the idea that there is these tasks that must get done, but you just got to keep thinking about them. So that is a huge thing I've learned is if you feel busy, I want you to ask yourself this. How often are you thinking about what you have to get done? Is it constant? Because I guarantee you will feel busy if all you think about is what you have to get done. Huge truth. Truth number 2. You can only focus on one thing at a time. Be in one place at a time. So even if your brain decides to think about how many things you have to do, at the end of the day, you're really only focusing on one thing at a time. So whether you are with a client or doing work or making dinner or exercising, even if you have a busy brain, you can actually only get done one thing at a time. So if you can practice quieting your brain and actually focus on being where you are, you will find that that is what makes up life, a series of tasks, even if you're watching Netflix. Be there. Watch Netflix. Take your brain offline from thinking about what you didn't get done today. Be with your family. Walk your dog and be with the dog. Look around at your environment. Write that email. Work with the client. Record the podcast. Whatever it is that you're doing, focus on that and be there. This will help you feel so much less busy. Truth number 3. Thinking I'm busy never serves me. I feel like it's almost a badge of honor that we wear, thinking that, busy is equated to importance, but really busy is just overwhelmed. Like, I've never thought to myself, I'm so busy and feel good about it. I don't ever feel productive. I just feel overwhelmed all the time. It never works. Does being busy ever feel good? No. What we want to feel is efficient and productive and like we have time and we have space and everything like that. So I just have chosen to never say I'm busy and never think it. It is just a hard boundary that I have drawn for myself. The last truth that I've decided to believe about time is not everything is a priority. In fact, everything you do is optional. You get to choose what goes on your plate and what goes on your schedule. It's funny, I'll get clients that'll kind of come back with, well, no, I have to walk my dog, or I have to feed my dog, or like, no, you have to pay your taxes. Actually, that is all optional. That is something you are choosing to do for a good reason. I mean, you don't really have to pay your taxes, but if you don't, there are consequences like potentially being fined or going to jail. Like, those are all things that could happen, but there's actually nothing saying you 100% have to or else. Same with walking your dog. You do that because you care about your dog. Not because there is some written rule that everyone has to do that. I mean, there are people in the world that probably don't walk their dogs, right? Like, that's what I really want you to start thinking, is that everything that you're telling yourself you have to do, I have to do the laundry, I have to keep the kitchen clean, I have to respond to this email right now. Every single thing is optional. You get to choose what goes on your schedule and what doesn't. The deal is, it just comes sometimes with certain consequences when you don't put things on your plate. So one of the things that I actually did about 3 or 4 months ago is I wrote down absolutely every single task that I did in my business. And I'm talking about every micro task. And what I did was I was like, okay, what of this do I want to put back on my plate? And here is how I gauge that. I said to myself, does it create new clients or help me serve my existing clients? If the answer was yes, it was something I put back on. And then what I noticed was all of these little things like, just posting on Instagram and stuff like this, those didn't hold weight. They didn't make the cut. So what I ended up doing was eliminating them. And yes, sometimes there's consequences like things like that. So I've told you guys on this podcast before that my heavy client days are Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. I see a lot of people in 3 days. What does that mean? That means my kitchen looks like an absolute disaster. No laundry gets done. No cleaning gets done. Laundry piles up on my floor. It's fine. I have decided that that is not a priority. So what I don't do is stress out about it the whole time and think, well, I have to get this done because what if somebody comes over and it gets so messy? It's fine. It's not a priority. It's optional. I choose what goes on my schedule. And because I made that choice, I don't fret about it and spend time feeling overwhelmed that I have so much to catch up on. I know by the time I reach Thursday, the house is usually a mess, and I carve time out on Thursday to do catch up. So now that you know my truth, what I want you to ask yourself is why you want to continue feeling busy now that you can see it has more to do with the way you think about your tasks and how busy your brain is than what you actually have to do. You can absolutely have a full schedule and not feel busy. I want you to ask yourself, why are you attached to the story of busy? So I have a client and this is one of the conversations we were having the other day. She said, I have so much to do and I just don't have enough time to do it because one of her staff was leaving sometime in the near future. I think she gave her I'll be leaving within the next month. So my client needed to hire somebody to replace her. And because there was this impending deadline, she felt really rushed on top of her already heavy client load. And she would be taking on this girl's work and be even more busy. And I asked her, I'm like, what is the fear underneath all of this? Why do you feel rushed? And she said, well, if I don't find someone to replace her in time, I'm either going to have to take on double the workload or tell my current clients that I have to reduce the load with them until I find someone. And honestly, I feel like that's going to feel unprofessional and sucky. And I'm going to be so disappointed in myself. And I was like, oh, so the worst thing that's going to happen about it is that you are going to feel disappointed or sucky or feel unprofessional. It's just a feeling. A feeling is literally just a series of chemical reactions in the body based on how we think about something, right? So if a feeling is just that, why are we spending all of our brain energy now preventing that feeling from happening potentially in the future? She was spending so much time avoiding potentially feeling unprofessional, sucky, and disappointed that she created overwhelm and busy now. And here's the thing. She guaranteed she was going to feel equally bad now as she thought she would then, because honestly, busy, rushed, and overwhelmed feel just as bad as sucky and disappointed. So I said, how about we just eliminate busy, rushed, and overwhelmed? Keep your brain where you are. Let's get a system for getting everything out of your head and focus on where you are now. Because being busy and rushed and overwhelmed now does nothing to prevent potentially not finding someone in time. We can't go through our businesses relying on the external circumstances to change how we feel. That is our job as business owners, to be able to be in control of our feelings and be able to manage our thinking so that we can grow without all the overwhelm and the busy. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you my solutions for how to hack busy. So these are exactly things that I have done that make my life feel spacious, that make me feel like I have enough time for everything I want to get in. Number 1, stop buffering during your downtime. So buffering means when you are feeling a negative emotion or something you don't want to feel, like you feel tired, you feel exhausted, you're drained, you're stressed, whatever that is, that you do something to get out of that. So think about, finishing the end of your day and you feel really exhausted, so you collapse onto the couch and watch TV. That is buffering because it helps you escape feeling exhausted, right? So if you want to feel less busy, stop buffering during your downtime. Stop trying to escape your life on your free time, because that's the biggest thing I hear is I'm so busy, I just don't have enough time for myself. But if you actually looked at the minute-by-minute breakdown of your schedule, there is time for yourself, but we're likely spending it doing things that don't make us feel good. Things like social scrolling. I mean, how many times have you picked up your phone just to do something quick and 20 minutes later you're scrolling Instagram? So that is time that you could have spent instead in your life feeling present. And I often feel that that is one of the biggest reasons we feel busy is because we don't feel present during our downtime, that we buffer during it instead. So what should you do instead? Now, I want you to first recognize, like I always say, there's nothing wrong with watching TV if you're doing it intentionally. But you can also be super present while watching your TV. But most of the entrepreneurs I talk to are also scrolling on their phones while watching TV, meaning more buffering. I want you to be present in the minutes of your life. The best way to be present is to take a note of your senses. Feel the ground under your feet or your chair under your butt, right? Notice the temperature in the room around you. What do you hear? Bringing your attention to your senses really helps you be present. And when you are present during the times between tasks, those transition moments, instead of filling them with a buffer, fill them with being present. Even if you're doing something like watching TV, just notice where you are. Notice how expansive time feels, because when you are present, you go from feeling like a fast minute to a microwave minute. Time stretches when you are aware of being in it. So the best way to feel like you have more time is to slow down those minutes when you actually do have time, when you are not doing your to-do list. The other thing you can do, honestly, is cut out the things that are wasting your time. And that's just something you're going to have to go through your schedule and have a look at. The second way to hack busy is to plan better and honor it. I'm reading a book right now called Indistractable. And in that book, the author said something so interesting. He says, you can't call something a distraction unless you know what you're being distracted from. Meaning, if your calendar is just open and you don't allot what you're doing in each time block during the day, you can't really say that you're busy or that you're distracted or anything like that. And so I actually find when I allot time by planning it better, I am then able to honor it better. So for example, if I am shutting down my computer at 6 o'clock, from 6 to 7, I am with my family. I am going to honor that and be there. I'm not also going to be on my phone. I'm going to be playing with my daughter. And this really helps me feel like my day has space when I am honoring it. So to piggyback on that, the next hack that I will do is I will actually plan in flex time. So throughout my schedule during the week, I will plan 60-minute what I call flex blocks. So I often find that sometimes my work runs over, I don't get enough done, or something comes up last minute. This 1 hour flex block lets me have time to move tasks into if I didn't get them done when I intended to. Now, here's what's also important about that. If I have a flex block that is empty, meaning it's an hour of time that I left to be flexible, I can do whatever I want with it. So I often spend it being super present because that hour feels long. Now, trust me, if you have an hour in your day as flex time, you will find your days feel spacious if you are present during those flex times. A really good example actually is if you're driving. Instead of, being preoccupied with the radio or a podcast, if you just use that as quiet time, you'll notice how much space can be. And it's space to think and space to feel and stuff like that. So, like I said, tip number 1 is stop buffering during your downtime. Number 2, plan better with your days. Honor it. If you feel like everything is running in, plan your time better so you know what you're doing when. Plan flex time in, all right? Now, the last one is, what would you rather be doing? I love to ask my clients this, like, if you're busy, like, what are you missing out on? They'll say things like, well, I've got blog articles I want to catch up on, or I really want to watch my favorite YouTube channel with a cup of coffee, but they never make time for it. So this goes back to planning it. Like, I think you need to recognize what you are missing out on by feeling so busy. Like, what are you missing? Is it downtime, time with your kids, a meal sitting and eating instead of on the go or at your desk? Planning for it and remembering that you get to choose how much is on your schedule. I know it all feels essential, but trust me, it's not. Put on there what you want, because I often ask myself, like, why do I feel like I need to cram so much stuff into a week that potentially could itch me towards feeling busy? And the answer was always because I was in a rush, because I felt that something bad might happen if I didn't get it all done, or I wouldn't reach my goals on time, and then I would be dealing with a feeling I didn't want to feel. And I was always escaping what is now. And I just recognized, like, would I rather create a little bit of space in my day now and feel present and time slows down and spacious and at ease? Would I rather feel that every day now and reach my goal a little slower, or feel busy and overwhelmed and hit my goal? And the answer was a no-brainer. It was at ease. It was slow. And the reason for that is because I know if I show up to my goal feeling busy and overwhelmed, it's going to feel like that when I get there, and the whole cycle is going to repeat. So, what do you want to think about time? My favorite thoughts that I go to all the time, no matter how full my calendar is that I have all the time I need. I think that all the time. Like, I have so much time. I have all the time I need. And instead of saying, my life is so busy, I'll say my calendar is full, because that's true. There's a lot of stuff on my calendar and it is full, but that doesn't mean I need to feel busy. So how do you hack busy? It comes down to how you think and the story you're telling yourself. If you consistently think that you need to have less things on your calendar for you to feel less busy, you will always think that way. I'm offering you the option to choose something different. Choose a way of thinking. Just try it. The worst thing that can happen is it doesn't work perfectly the first time. And you know what? Like I said, it took me years to master this, but it doesn't need to take you years because I was figuring it out along the way. And I mean, if you're struggling with your schedule, or I mean, at this point, if you have a lack thereof of schedule, and if you're struggling with staying focused and productive at work, I would love for you to book in like a no strings attached, completely judgment-free consultation with me so we can see where you're at and build a plan together to get you where you want to be. At the least, you're going to walk away with some things that you see differently now, and you can instantly start applying so that you can start feeling better right away. And at most, we work together to build a system, a routine, and a plan for you to not only have the health that you want, but to have the brain that you want, the space in your life that you want, the feelings that you want, and being productive without relying on busy. So I'm going to leave a link in the description, or you can head to tanessashears.com/apply to book in your consultation. And remember, these are judgment free. If you think that you have a lifestyle that is like, oh my gosh, it's so bad, trust me, I've seen worse. So you really don't need to worry about that. If you feel nervous about doing that, that's totally normal. I feel nervous before these kind of calls too, but think of it as just me listening to you, hearing what's going on, and offering you a solution. So I hope you've had a great time listening to this. I want you to, before you finish listening to this today, I want you to look forward at your day. What do you have to get done? What if it is optional? And if it is all necessary today, how do you want to think about it instead? Have a beautiful week. I'll talk to you next time. Bye. Ready to begin each day feeling energized and focused? I'd love to work with you one-on-one. In my Becoming Limitless program, you're going to learn how to optimize your brain and body with science and biohacking so you can be highly productive and grow your business faster. Join me over at tanessashears.com/work with me. I'll see you there.